Nice to meet everybody. We have our first series of remote working issues. We call it issues because we all had now 7 weeks experience of remote working, or 7 weeks and a little bit. And I just quickly made up some maths. We look about the days we did remote work now for those 7 a little bit weeks. It is almost, if you would work every day a week, 1 day at home, it would be almost a full year remote work experience we all have. And probably if you go through everything, you will find that a lot of stuff you have noticed already, and you find a little bit, yeah, that was my problem, my issues. And through the series of webinars, of 4 webinars, we go through different things right now. If we are talking about remote working, I just have to. We have actually a nice experience now. Yeah, we had already all those remote working experience before. We knew we called someone on a support hotline and they fix our problems remote. We have conversations with our customers remote. A lot of outsourcing is remote. So when I was with my corporation, I had offices in 4 countries. So of course my whole life experience was working remote with everybody, with all the teams around the world, but all of them were in their office. So actually we worked from one office to the other office remote. Now the new remote is everybody's home. And that's actually the biggest problems we're having right now. Yeah, our new remote work is everybody home. And funny is, last week we had a discussion with someone who's like, yeah, I'm totally used to remote working. I know what I'm doing. I'm totally fine and set up. But I have a problem. Nobody's responding me. And that's where it starts, because the other side is not used to remote work. It's not actually so effective in remote working. And those are the problems we are sometimes facing now. Okay. If I divide it, we have obvious technical aspects on remote work. Of course, your equipment, laptop, tablet, keyboard, mouse, monitor, phone, internet, that immediately comes into our mind. It's like how you set up your remote work. So if I look at my remote setup, that's my home office. So I'm fine set up. I have my monitors. I can work everything. I have a nice view outside of the window. So it feels really good. Most of us, if they go to work, they have a normal PC. It means how you do your remote work. If we have only a PC at work, so I have to go home and I can't do anything. So I start using my private equipment. Especially in this crisis, what happened short term, we allowed for a corporation just like use your private device, just somehow connect, gets the job done. But that has a lot of problems we are talking about later on security issues. It has also legal issues with it. Just using your private device is not always a really good idea. Internet plans. If you don't have a good internet plan, if you're in an area where you don't have a good internet, remote work gets really, really hard. You can use your phone as a hotspot on a short term, but then you have another additional prices on it. So short term, we had to find solutions how to pay up, top up all the internet prices, phone prices to get it immediately done. If we look at about a midterm, and I'm always talking about midterm now and not long term, because this new remote work will be actually our new future. Midterm, we will do much more remote work. And it's not a bad thing. So if we are set up for remote work, we could catch a lot of other problems. So if I feel not so good, if I say like, hey, I thought I would catch a flu, I can stay at home and do my work at home and don't infect all my colleagues. I can have a better life balance by having more time at home, like the experience we have now. 1 day at home per week would save a lot of carbon footprint, gives me a better life balance, I can plan all my stuff, so it's not a bad thing. to look at the whole remote working also for the future. That's why I'm talking about midterm. Midterm, every new investment you're doing should be set up for remote working. Means laptop, tablets, maybe spare monitor, internet plans, cell phones. Talk to your tax advisor, like, can I give a corporate phone? In my corporation, every employee always had a corporate phone. We paid internet plans for at home, so they always could work remote and could be always be online. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I like if the employees are always online. So those are the things on the obvious technical aspects. We can change them. We have to make an investment plan and change it for the future. The biggest problem we are facing is the non-obvious technical aspects. So not everybody has a real home office. It's a corner somewhere in the apartment, in the house. It's a dining table where you sit. It's a shared room with everybody else. Right now, everybody's at home, so you share it with your roommates, you share it with your husband, wife, both have to work. And we have a problem with the light, with the chair. So if you look at the picture, I like this picture. If you look at this lady, if you look at her back, how she sits, 8 hours later, that probably hurts. The chair on the coffee table, it's nice for coffee, but 8 hours sitting on it, working on the laptop, might give you some pain and problems. Next point is the surround sounding. Family members home, everybody's home. It's just more noisy. You are not so quiet as you're used to. So the hyperfocus on everything gets really complicated. What I found for me, even in a home office, printer, scanner, all those other devices, all those cables suddenly coming around, where you just set it up, you have to build it, deconstruct it, build it, deconstruct it. So it's a lot of effort you have to do around it to actually have a possibility to work at home. And those things we can't change. We live how we live. If we don't have a real office space, we have to live with those problems. What they do, they give us a lot of stress. Because if you're in physical pain, because of the chair, because we are sitting on the couch doing our work there, we start having physical pain. We are not so productive, which gives us a lot of stress. And that actually is a problem with remote working, to get the response time up, to be able to make a plan. What happened right now is we are more active. We are not reactive. We are not planning. We are doing active our work. We are just reacting. Things coming in, we just run behind everything. That gives a lot of stress. We'll later on through the webinars talking about productivity and all those aspects. That's the main issue we are facing right now as a non-obvious technical aspects. Now, how we can change them? You have tons of YouTube videos right now online, tons of information, what you should do to work from home, how to get more productive. What I found is the most important part, and you can read everything I wrote just on it. In my opinion, you have to go to work. Because if you don't go to work, even in your home office, you're not leaving work. Means if you don't have the feeling you go to work and you start your work, you're never ending your work. It just keeps on doing it. So that's the most important part, that you have actually this time in. Now I'm starting my work. Now it's my free time. And talking over the last weeks with a lot of people that were just like, those days never end. It just keeps on doing. I don't know if it's Monday, Wednesday, Sunday. It feels for me like I'm working the whole time. So that is the reason, because we are not going to work. We are not really actually starting our work. Everything is plural. Everything is mixed up together. One important thing is divide your day between screen time and non-screen working time. I was talking to a lot of people and they're like, my eyes starts hurting. I'm just like getting a headache. I'm always on the screen. and we're not used to it. Okay, developer, probably yes. Support team sitting in front of the screen, but they have their normal breaks. Now you don't take your break, you start eating in front of your computer. That makes it really more complicated. Make a normal phone call. You can still take your phone. You don't need to make a video call. You can use your phone and call someone. You can even plug in earphones and walk around, so you have some movements. I like always to make sport. That's a good thing. Now, midterm, write down what you like about remote working. What is the good thing? Think about it. If I take 50 minutes to go to work, I have twice 50 minutes for me. It's my personal free time I gain. That's something positive. I can do something. I can do something for me. Yeah. And make your plan for the future. What you can make better, how you can improve it. Like this, you have a plan to get more active and not always reacting on it. And it's important to find good things on remote working, because that's the new future. We will work remote and more remote. A good example is Sweden. They're over 90% remote working capability in Sweden. That's why they also could run a different approach with everything. Good, that was just the introduction about a little bit remote working issues, non-obvious one. A lot of people are interested into technical stuff.
Norbert, are you going to make this presentation available after the webinar?
Yes. We can. Good?
Yeah, that's the only question. Thanks.
If we talk about tools, you see the first one, Wild West approach. That is actually, if I'm with my experience over 2 decades now, going into cooperation, try to optimize processes and everything, that's the most part I'm finding. And I can tell you so many examples, even here now in Canada. Wild West approach means everybody just takes whatever he likes. Newest tool, I found something, new employee, new team member coming in. Hey, I work with this tool. Can I start it? You just sign up and you use it. So interesting part is I mentored a startup, and that was funny. I came in and I got registered as interims manager for the tools. And they're like, yeah, no, make my sign up. Then all the emails coming in, Slack, Asana, Google Drive, HubSpot, whatever, like just emails coming in where I'm registered. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? An interesting part, the email registration was the last one. So everything was set up with my private account, sign on. And so I noticed, like, what are all those tools you're using? How you do your work with having like 12 different tools. And we're talking about our corporation with 10 people. So what does it mean with the Wild West approach? It's good in the beginning. It's like you get your job done. Everybody uses what he likes. Yeah? Important is to ask the right questions. So if you think about remote work, yes, we are using now Zoom. We're having different tools, how we can chat, how we exchange data, everything. But you have to think about long term in this part. Asking the right questions. You know, and what I found is like, sign up with private account. Yeah, I had already this account, you can use it. It's free until 5 users. So you start using this. But where's the data stored? Which data is stored? Who can access it? All those many questions are rising up. And me coming out of Europe, where we have already GDPR, and I was involved into GDPR and everything, a lot of concerns rising up. The biggest part is who did a real contract? Right now, who did he gave the credit card? Oh, when it's free, I can give my credit card. It's up free for 5 users. But who did the real binding contract when you sign up for all those tools? And what is your corporate process you're having? So if I'm looking at this, that's only the best scenario. Everybody signed up. I know a team. Everybody signed up privately. Everybody used his private device. Nice cooperation growing. Best is some people leaving the cooperation in good terms. Still, they had problems to get their accounts together, which was a private email. That's the best scenario. Someone goes in good terms. We have no idea what actually happens if it goes on a worse condition. The interesting part is using this approach, what happens if a client asks for an audit? How is your process? Then you have some problems if you don't ask the right questions. Also, what is the risk? How much time you spend? So how many time you really spend finding the right tools? And now everybody is looking for his right tool. Last time I spoke with someone, new employee comes in, immediately looking for a new tool. We don't need this tool, but signed up, set up, data is in already. So a lot of people spending a lot of time, especially now with remote work, finding tools, how to improve the work and not really doing the work. Then often it's not scalable. You have 1 to 5 free, 5 to 10 costs this, and then suddenly it goes really expensive. What happens? People start using the same accounts, try how they can go around with the free version, with the cheap version, and your processes get more and more complicated, and you spend a lot of time to actually work around to not spend this money. Biggest part is how you get your data out. So if you start using systems and you try to move to a new system, you don't get all this every data out. And the interesting part in data is, if you're talking about CRM, for example, it's not just the contact and the addresses, it's all these things in between, which actually makes the real system, the CRM. This data, most of the time you don't get out. You get your address list out. You have it anyway somewhere in a spreadsheet. That's how you started everything, and keep people still working in spreadsheets. But all these bindings, all the stuff in between, you never get out. So you make already, if you just jump on everything, a long-term problem rising. You don't get a process nicely signed up. Most tools offer you, you can do this app, you can have this additional app to join in and move your data around, but what happens is your data gets stored in different places, mixed out, and it makes it more and more complicated to actually use it and have a flowing, nice process. And if we do this, again, like saying in the beginning, you always have the impression we're not so effective, we're not getting our work done, I have to look in too many tools, I don't know actually where to look for the information. And it ends up, we have a lot of nice tools. We sort of like we get the job immediately done, but we find ourselves sending a lot of emails and actually sharing data via email again. So the use of the tools, if it's too many, actually is gone already.
Norbert, before you continue, we have a question. When it comes to off-screen work time, what should we do when 99% of work is now done using technologies and screens?
That's a really good question. If you want to have off-screen time, you don't need to sit in front of your screen if you try to make your plan for the day. If I'm walking the dog in the morning, I make my plan for the day. I know already, that's work time for me. Not for the dog, but for me, it's work time. I go and I have my plan, what I want to do when. I don't have to sit in front of the computer to do it. I can make it in my mind. So we think we always have to sit in front of the computer. All the brainstorming, all the planning, we can do off the computer. We can work around. We can start using it again, start having some stuff coming back. And yes, I'm also writing sometimes something down on paper, just having my notes. I use my phone, and if I'm walking, I'm just talking to myself and make my plan into it. And then afterwards, I'm putting it into the computer if I have to plan it with all the appointments and everything. What we've seen right now is, oh, when you have time, that's it. So 30 seconds later, I have the appointment because everybody is sitting in front of it. Calling, I send you an invite later during the day. So I'm managing to say, like, okay, what is my off-screen time? What I can plan really off-site? And when do I have to sit in front of the screen? Makes it much, much more productive because then I'm just acting, I'm shutting down email, I'm just getting my work done, then start up the email, look at the email, get the emails done, and structures work like this. But get the thinking offside. Make a phone call with your phone, not with Zoom, like in old days. So we were stopping at Wild West approach, and I have a few considerations. If you start saying like, hey, look around what you're using, yes, go. But appoint a person, or in a team, someone is responsible. Give a budget. Give a time how it's used. Yeah. And then later on, check if it's really used. Declutter the tools you're using. If you don't use the tool for a few months and you don't have any usage on it, no logins, get rid of it. And don't make the mistake, oh, that's cheap, it's just $20 a month per person. So it adds up. And the last time I had to go in and streamline a corporation, the first thing I did was just looking at all the expenses, like give me all invoices, give me all invoices of all tools. Because we never see like, oh, this comes in January, this comes in March, and so on. Nobody has a real overview what they're paying for all the tools. And the most important thing, make your accounts with a corporate email. Make sure who has the legal binding contract with those services. And if you don't need it, get rid of it. Another good solution, known for many years, still up there, VPN, virtual private networks. Actually, it's good if you have your work is really heavy inside your corporation, in your office space. Then it's good because it's nothing else, and it gives you access via the internet to your normal network in your corporation, in your office building. And then you just keep on working in there like you did before, like you have going to work and you start your computer and you're connected to the LAN. So that's what virtual private network is doing. But from security reason, easy, big corporations still do it. So I still personally with clients, I have 3 different VPN systems installed on my computer to be able to connect, and it takes all the security up. But problem, what do you do, how you uninstall it? If it has a private laptop, how you get access on a private laptop? Those are the problems we are facing with the VPN now. If I have quickly to go remote and I have to use private devices, it can take a while. Or for me personally, on my private device to have access to those big corporations, it took up to 4 months until I had the account to actually dial in, because the processes are big. So it's secure, but it's a big overhead on it. The other problem is how big is the bandwidth you're having. So we have to understand that we have 2 directions, in and out. And most of the time, if we're in the office, we need a good outgoing for the internet. The incoming is often very, very low. Now, the incoming, if we work remote, is now the important one, because that limits us. There are some nice solutions around it, because you have your virtual private network, and now you made a remote access. Most of us know remote desktop from Microsoft, but there are a lot of nice tools around which you can use and make it really, really easy to access your PC inside. Gives you a better security because you can access your PC inside your corporation with your private device. I'll show you a quick. Let's, for example, build with TS+. So I'm having now actually access to a computer inside Munich, and I can do whatever I want with these tools, even via a browser. So it's secure, it's dialed in with a virtual private network, and I can access a PC wherever. That's called remote access. Yeah, and it just takes a while to start it. So you can have different tools using like that, TeamViewer, Ultra VNC, that helps you actually quickly to access your computers inside. Now, problem is, again, see who has the account, who is able to set it up. Yeah, because you don't want to give this account out to your PC inside your corporation to everybody. And you have to make sure how the access is controlled. Next big step is cloud-based solutions. And that's coming a lot with the Wild West approach. You can set up everything. You just sign up. You don't care where your data is and how it's stored, who has access to it. You always just trust them. So like, okay, that's good. I can sign up and my work is done and I can work from everywhere. Again, always is asking the right questions and asking questions. Can you choose solutions to be implemented and adapted into existing structure? Means if you have systems, you have heavily to work inside your corporation. Now you have this cloud solution. How do they work together? Most of the time, your ERP, your invoicing system might be inside, and all the other tools you're using are outside. Now, how you put them together, and there that starts to be really expensive to get it. So those hosted services, try to minimize how much you really have. Try to make sure how much data you store and where you store it. And always ask yourself, does this solution give me the possibility to use less emails? The question again, data privacy, is it compliant? Yeah. Just because the hosts the service you say you own and you try to buy, so it's like we are GDPR compliant, we are PPDA compliant, doesn't mean it works with your processes. You have to look deeper into it. Yeah. And always ask yourself, do I create a data mess? Like having too many systems running, doubling data, moving data around, and find myself suddenly, in the end, I'm using a lot of spreadsheets, I'm downloading data and I put them in a spreadsheet and I do it and then just upload the spreadsheet, where I keep sending emails. And it's like, hey, did you look what I put in? Did you find the document? By the way, here it's attached. You don't have to look for it. So always ask the questions how you're using your systems. New coming up is same thing like hosted services, but it goes more the direction. It's called self-hosted or housing, if you even have the bare metal. That can cut down your cost by 90%. That's what I very, very often did in corporation, going in like all the services you have, look at all services you're using, look at what you really need, and see like if you can run your own show. That can really cut down your cost by 90%. It looks really complicated, but it isn't, because the services are still out there. People offer you the ability in those facilities to run your own show, and they help you to set it up. Now, what you have in advantage, you know where your data is, you know how to be compliant, and on a security issue, you can add a lot of more stuff to it. That's a new way coming up right now. It takes a while to prepare, but it's a new way to look at cloud services. Last part, big part is security. So looking at all the tools, started with how we have a short-term solution using your private equipment. On a security level, that's really complicated, yeah, because we want to have our private network easy setup. Friends coming over, need Wi-Fi access, here it is, just do it, log on, use it. If you look at our private networks and the normal router we get from the providers, they're easy. You have the sticker on the back. Most people just leave it, so you look on it, you can hook up, and you have the papers lying around if your friends are coming over to hook up to your private network, or you change the password for something you can easily remember and everybody can easily type. So everybody's in. That means if you start working, everybody has actually access to it. And your private equipment, think about who else has access to it. Who is using it? Your kids, whatever in the family is using it. You have a password on it. So most those computers are, and I know it myself, like, just like here's a computer, it's free, yeah, just use it. It's hooked up to the network. Now, what you can do is, you can actually have a second network set up on your router. It's a little bit technical challenges, but it's easy to find out on the internet. Just have to connect to your router, you secure it. Just make sure if you use private equipment that you really have a password on it, that you don't store data on it. That's to protect you. But for a corporation part, if you allow it to have locally on private devices data, you never get them off again. That's it. Because you have no legal part to say, like, you can tell them, get your data off, that's fine, but you can't check it. Yeah. So from this legal aspect, if you allow private devices, you have to make sure if they can store data, how they can access it. If you say, like, hey, I have a short paper, so like, yeah, I sign here, I have a own password, I have a strong password, nobody else is using this one, I have different users on it, but you can't really enforce it. That's the problem with private equipment. If you give a corporate laptop, you have it already. It has already a setup. You just sign a paper and say, like, yeah, make sure nobody else is accessing it. And if you want to have it back, you just take your corporate equipment back. So that's, from a secure point, it's the best way to go. If you talk about the Wild West approach, we can throw the cloud stuff in it too. Most on the security part is really asking the question how you handle your login. Do we have a two-factor authentication? Means you need some other devices to log in. So it's not just user and password, because the user and password, if you have it, that's it, you have access. Only the second authentication makes it sure that you can make sure one person has it. Now, has also a problem if you're working at home and my phone is lying around, I have my two-factor authentication on my phone, and everybody else in my household knows my password on my phone. That's already with my two-factor authentication. So you know my user and password, and they know the password of the phone. That's it. It's gone. Everybody can access it. Yeah. The next question is how your data provider is handling actually the security. Do they take it serious? And to be honest, never trust them because they say, like, we do. It's not true. And we heard all those stories. We every day hear it, all what is hacked, what have been leaked again. That's our normal world right now. If we use services out there, people will hack them, people will try to get data out of it. And just to say, like, we are secure, we are encrypted, doesn't mean anything. It's marketing. So you have to be sure that you have to control, you have to minimize the data you're sending around. And that's why I'm always keeping saying, try not to send emails. Everything you're sending out via your private network at home, via emails, that's the most unsecure way to actually move data around. Big point is how your user rights are set up. Do you really have user rights? Is it per group, rules? Or is everything flat? No, this tool, everybody has the same rights. So everything you throw in, everybody sees. Can everybody edit it, share it, delete it? And if it's deleted, where is it gone? Can we recover it? How is your backup? So on security, you should just be aware. It's quickly, if you want to go remote quickly, we can't address everything. We have to make a plan on how we are doing it. But we have to ask ourselves the questions. Can I set user groups? Can I have rules? Can I set privileges? Not everybody can edit or delete, just view it. And how do we having versions? Can we check actually who is logging on into the system and at what time? Again, that gets already in some countries with the legal aspect a problem, and with some corporation, you're not allowed to check those things when you're actually working, how often you're working. Backup. Is there a backup, or do I just trust? They will do it for me and that's it. Or you have to run your own backup and how you back up your stuff. And then if you have your backup, who has access to it? So the worst thing is that, like, oh no, we have everything set up, nice, secure, somewhere hosted, and one person has the right to back up everything and pulls every data down. on a local drive. And this local external hard drive is actually not protected and now has no user rights. All data is free. So that's a level of security we are talking. You know, can try to make everything on the one side good, and then the backup is actually my lead. If someone has this hard drive and plugs in with USB, we have access to everything. So always asking yourself, what is the whole process, how I'm going through with security? And some stuff are obvious. Backup is part, nobody thinks about it, that everybody can access this hard drive if it's an external hard drive. And it's common. A lot of corporations just plug in an external hard disk for backup. Virtual private network, we talked about it. It's common and it's a secure thing because we have restricted access to it. If I have to dial in, if I have to start it to actually get access to the network, then it's first of it's secure because nobody else can go in to this network. Systems I'm using, it goes even so far that they disable my local internet and my local network. If I'm dialed in, I only can work inside. I can't access my computer. I can't even copy things over. So the copy buffer is gone. I can't drag and drop files. I have no chance to get files locally. If I'm connected, I'm working in the LAN network and I can't do anything. Even so, system can check if my security things, virus scanner, firewall is up to date. If it's not up to date, it doesn't allow me to connect. So on this one, I can really secure every device. It doesn't matter which device I'm using. I'm having even systems where I use a specific token or a card, which I have to plug in first, which has a certain certification. And then I'm able to connect and still all those other checks. So in this case, I can make it really secure, but it's a lot of overhead and expensive. So it's only for long term. And I said before, it took 4 months until I got my access. If you're talking about this last approach, housing and self-hosted, again, you're using cloud systems, it's stored in a facility, but you can add your things as you run your own show. You can add actually virtual private network in front of it. You can make a white labeling for IP addresses or MAC that you really control who can access it. White labeling an IP address means a range of IP addresses needs to be enabled. So it's a bit overhead, but you can look into it, who can access it. Means I can work now from my home office, but if I would go to a coffee shop, I couldn't access anymore because the IP range is changing. So in this way, I can say, like, do I have to have a private network or is it a public network? Is it an open network or a secure network? I can stop having access to the system with overhead I can put on top of it. Main part is I can get control of my data, means gaining back control of my data, knowing what's going on, still having someone who is I'm trusting as a service partner, but he's only giving me the service. The data stays with me. And that's the most important part. We are talking more and more about remote work, so that we are too easily losing the control where our data is. That's it. So now we can be open for questions.
So what are the worst case scenarios that you've seen from the Wild West approach?
Okay. Nice corporation, nice startup. Everybody who worked there had his private device. So they started up, the developers brought their own devices, signed up everywhere with their Gmail account. So all the code storage, all the services they used in AWS, Google, all the stuff, everything was set up with everybody privately and then shared privately. So I give you my, I invite you to, that's my setup for the code. That's the documents I'm using. That's my Slack, my Asana account, this my private account. and then you start sharing this one, then someone had to leave the corporation. And unlucky, that was the first one who made all the signups. Now, how to get his private account, his private email account, and say like, that's my data is there, that's with the account. You can't ask him and say like, you know, forget it. Can you give me your private password to control it? So you have to trust him that he signs it over, you make a copy, and then you only have to trust him that he deleted everything or cut down the account, but you can't control it. So all your data, and in this case, everything was gone already, it was already spread out. And I got also access to everything in there, and everybody had the same right. So everybody was using all those different tools, and everybody had the same right. So I could kick everybody out, or I can invite other people. It's a mess. And then, especially in startups, people are changing, people come on, people go, it's gone. Your data is gone. So that's really, from a security perspective, it just gets my hair rising up, and it's bad. The times I needed when someone had to leave, to kick out their accounts, to make sure they don't have any access anymore and can write an email in behalf of the corporation, just took ages. It took days until you had cleaned up everything. That's really the worst account. Of my own experience, I know every developer tries to have a copy of his code. So if you do software, he knows they have a copy, they try to have a copy. If you give them a private device, they have it, they do whatever they want.
If you are concerned with security and data storage, where do you suggest you store your data if you want to use a cloud-based approach and you don't want to use Google or another US provider?
Especially with US providers, the big problem is by law, they can get to your data. That's, we have to know. If you use a US provider with your data, by any means, if they think like we want to access it, they can access it without informing you. Yeah? If you look at privacy laws, especially now Europe with GDPR, you have to know where your data is. And at any time, you have to know who has access to this data and for what purpose, not only who has access, for what purpose he does use this access. Yes, I'm having concerns. I like the approach that you go to a facility and you know exactly where you store your data. So I'm working over 30 years together with providers. I know them personally. I always say like, I know where you live. So even if I do my cloud storage, I like cooperation with a bit smaller, but I know everybody working there and I know where they are living. So that gives me the feeling, this trust feeling a little bit, where I can go. So with my provider, for example, I go every year on Oktoberfest. So I know all technical people and who has access to it, because we have to imagine that if it's cloud storage, it's not actually in the cloud. When I'm flying around Europe or coming over to Canada, I never hear like, oh, we have to deroute and we have to make another tour because all those hard drives coming towards us. It's not in the cloud. Somewhere has access to this machine. It's stored on a physical machine, on a physical hard drive. And we always forget this because we can access it, it's somewhere in the cloud, and we just trust them. If you don't want to use, try to find local ones. Try to stay local, try to stay in Canada, see where you can store your data in Canada. And there are people, it's not, I know in Canada, it's not big yet. Yeah, it's too easy to use US storage, but there's new ones coming up in Canada. You can start using your data storage in Canada. You have to think about it, whom you're using. Yeah, you have to read the privacy laws. You have to read how they store it. And very often there's one sentence in it, so like, we try to provide you storage in Canada, but we don't guarantee. So read the small parts.
What's the biggest mistake that, oh, Linda says, thank you. What's the biggest mistake that you made when you started working remote?
The biggest mistake I did was in the beginning trying to say like, I give the people like find out what tool you're using. So I went this Wild West approach in the beginning too, because to be honest, management, they know what they're doing. Let them do it. Yeah, and then come back with solutions. And they ended up also having, for me, different approaches. So one team in Canada was using a system. In Argentina, they were using a different system. I found myself suddenly in the morning looking through 4 different systems to whom I have to talk, what I have to do. And because I learned, take care of you, you have to use it internal. And I didn't take over the role to actually manage the process. Just pure trust, do whatever you want. So I did this Wild West approach too. I thought it's pretty simple and easy, but it didn't work out. So I had to streamline everything and I had to minimize the effort I'm using to actually connect and talk to everybody. And cutting down emails. I'm not a fan of long emails. So if I don't see it in the preview, it's already too much.
Great. Does anyone else have any other last questions for Norbert?
So, for example, what I did now is with working with Europe and everything, having a system, and all people we're working with, they're anyway smart. So I don't have to send an email. If the system tells me what is new today, and I'm like 5 hours behind Europe, if I get up and look into the system, I see what's new and I know what to do. So I don't even need a chat, and I don't need even an email what to do, and I don't all the other ones. I throw something in a folder called to do, and then they know what to do because it explains it. I don't have to send you emails like, hey, I sent you a document, or I uploaded a document. Can you please check it or write it into chat? Now, especially on remote working, what we're missing is this social part. Like in the morning, having a coffee, staying together at the coffee machine and talk about different things and a little bit work. This we are missing now. We are just talking work. Now we are writing emails, and I give you this, did you look at this one? And the emails get more and more and more chat about normal things we did before anyway, because we talked about it at a coffee. And this we are missing. We have to get productive. We have to get this social part into our meetings. And we shouldn't call it meeting, yeah? So we should call it coffee. And still trust if we do it on the right side, if we are using the right tools, streamlined, the overhead goes down and we get more productive because everybody knows what they should do. So we have to gain this trust back that they know what to do. Big issue, people don't ask for help. So most of the things, even in an office, I don't know if you have noticed this, when I always had like sitting in my nice office, looking over to the big space, nobody would ask any question. If I had to go to the washroom, everybody came, I have a question. I'm like, why you didn't come before? Yeah, so that gets even more complicated now. Nobody asks for help. Nobody asks a question. So everybody tries to get it done on his own. We're sitting in the same room. Easily you ask a question. Oh, I don't know this. Couldn't you help me? I forgot how it's done. And we just react. I'm on a phone with someone and my colleague hears how I'm struggling or notice how my body language is changing and helps me, gives me a paper, gives me a short sign what to do, where to look, and the problem is solved. This we miss completely now. You're on your own. You have to figure it out. And asking quickly for help is not easy.
Yeah. Well, that is, I think, a great note to end the webinar on. There'll be more from you, Norbert. This is part 1 of a 4-part webinar series. So Norbert will be touching on management next. I've put the link in the chat box. It's also up on our website under events, and it'll be on our social media soon. And then following that will be productivity and communication. Chantal Hulette says, so true, it makes us feel even more isolated.
Oh, sorry. I don't want to make you feel more isolated. It's really, yeah, having tried to get out with social and not only with work. Yeah. And it will change. We will be open again. We will come back, but we have to be prepared.
I don't think she means you making her feel isolated. I think it's just being in remote work.
Yeah.
Is that right, Chantal?
And feel free to reach out to us at Venn. If you really struggle with something, just reach out. Yeah.
Yes, please do. I'll put my email in the chat box. We really are here for you all. We want to see the region, the economy, not just survive COVID-19, but really thrive post the pandemic. We are here for each and every one of you. So if you have questions, if there's some way we can help, if there's knowledge you'd like to leverage, please reach out to us. I will put you in contact with the right person in the team. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Norbert, for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you in webinar 2 on management.
Yes.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye.